I'm super excited for this conversation today with Cathy Mazak, who, we came together through a mastermind, and, I just can't say enough about how knowing you really, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and learn about your business. And I'm so thankful for the friendship that we built over the last couple of years, and been able to be supportive to each other in our growth. So, I want to just start off, Cathy, by really introducing your work to the Breadwinning Women community, and have you share a little bit about exactly what your company is and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Cathy Mazak. I'm a former university professor. I thought my whole life I was going to be an academic and kind of live that life. I got my PhD. I did all the ranks. I got to the kind of top of the levels of being a professor. And because of a lot of reasons, decided to start my own business, and then decided to transition out of academia fully into the business. And the business is very related to my academic career. So the business is all about creating professional development programs, mostly based around getting your writing done for women professors. And to some extent also for more broadly, like graduate students and people who will, who maybe have just graduated, are still looking for that first job. So that's why I use the word academics, like kind of anybody who is a researcher or a professor or even a grad student. And we have been in business since 2017. Again, like really focusing on helping scholars get their writing done. But more broadly, it's really the writing is the door that we enter through to really do larger conversations about career.
Okay. I love that. So let's take it back to 2017 when you first, was beginning in the business. Like, what was your initial offer that you put out there in the world for your academics?
Yeah. So I got interested in online business because of online courses. So I took an online course for the first time in I guess the summer of 2016. And then I started kind of delving into the world of online courses. And I was like, wait a minute, I know how to teach things, what could I teach? What could I create? Because it just seemed like, as a mom, at that moment, I had my third baby and she was a baby. And I was like, I love learning online. This is really cool. So what could I potentially create? And I landed on the writing idea. And, I started my business by working with a coach, like a one-on-one coach here in Puerto Rico, that she really helped me figure out my personal brand and what I wanted my blog to be and all that stuff. And I built the blog and everything from scratch by myself. And my first offer that was really this small offer called the Virtual Writing Retreat. And it was a 2-week kind of delivered live mini course that had it dripped out each day. And it was I think I was nervous to sell it for $97. So I think I sold it for $97 with a $20 off coupon kind of thing. And the idea of this 2-week thing was to just take people through the process of doing a push, a big push on one writing project. So the hook was kind of get your almost done article out the door. So that was my first course offer. And at the same time I was doing that, I was taking on one-on-one coaching clients to help them with their writing and career. I would help them plan out their publication pipelines. I would help them prioritize projects. I would help them quit things. I would help them make a plan for writing. And all of that really, that one-on-one work taught me what I needed to know to kind of build my signature course, which I did that was the second stage. But the first offer was this little virtual writers retreat offer and the one-on-ones.
Yeah, I love that. And what were you charging at that time for your one-on-one service?
I remember charging $400 for 4 calls, like $100 an hour. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to get started. And that's common. Like a lot of people are
Mhm.
starting out $100 an hour, just
Yep.
getting it going. And it does exactly what you said, right? You build up that confidence,
Yeah.
you get results for people. And then you're like, listen, now I can really go in and have this like signature offer. And
Yeah.
then what was your signature offer that you launched?
Yeah, the signature offer is still our signature offer. So it has been named different things, and we did a huge re-record, like a complete content update and re-record last year. But it is now, it's called Navigate Your Writing Roadmap. It's trademarked. We had, yay. And at first it was called the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap, which was
Yeah,
like a
that's what I
lot.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a long name and a little generic, as well. And so when we rebranded, all my programs now have like a nice forward motion word as their name. So I have momentum, navigate, amplify, and elevate. But so like that's how we kind of brought the writing roadmap into that branding. But yeah, I created that program in like, I guess the summer of 2017. I actually followed Mariah Caz's Launch Your Signature course thing. I won a scholarship in her program. So I never
No
even
way.
bought Launch Your Signature course. I just did it. And I'm a very good student. And so I just followed all of her directions, and I created it. So I had kind of like partially, I guess I probably pre-sold it, and then I partially created it, and then I created it the rest of it as I went. And it sold for $297 back in the day. Now it's $1997.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So how did you make that shift into doing high ticket offers, which has been a lot of your focus, but I know you have some like the lower ticket things in there now, but how did you really make that shift? Because I think a lot of women struggle when it comes to charging more. And I love how you're showing this build, right? You went from
Yeah.
497 to, a $1,900 offer. How did you make that shift?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was realizing, so I was working full-time as a professor and have, mom of 3. We were building a house too, like just to make it extra hard. And so so I was doing like my full-time job at the same time I was building my business. And the metaphor that I use is like a mixing board, like a sound mixing board, right? Like you turn up some dials and you turn down others, because you can't have all the dials blasting. Like it's not a good mix, right? So I was like basically turning down the professor dial as I'm turning up the business dial. But there's a point at which it's like, I can't keep doing both of these things, right? Like at first it was like good side money. And then it was like, oh, wait, really good side money. So maybe this could be something bigger. But I had like a ton of offers. So I also was doing writing retreats, and I had created a bunch of like other things. And I just got to a point, and I guess it was really in like early 2019 or so, that I was like, this is not, I'll never make enough money to leave my job at this rate. Like I have to sell more expensive things, was the actual like thought that I had, because I kept like trying to figure out the numbers and all of this. And it's like, if you're selling offers that are like the Navigate course wasn't $1997 at that point. It was probably $997 maybe by that time. I just would keep calculating like, okay, how many new clients do I need? And I was using like all organic traffic. So it's like, how am I even going to find more people, right? To make the business sustainable, it was like, I just had this moment where I'm like, I'm going to have to bring in either like some kind of miraculous ton of new people every month, or I'm going to have to sell more expensive things. And it seemed like a good idea to try to sell more expensive things. And so then that's when I created our first high ticket group program. That was like the May of 2019 when we sold that program for the first time, when we enrolled the first cohort. And that was really when I was able to go like, okay, now it's just so leveraged, like I was still delivering all of it. But it gave me enough revenue to hire on coaches who are still with me now, and train them and everything. But It was, I went that offer the first time it was, the first time I sold it was $5,000 and now it's 7. So
Love it.
yeah. And then we created an additional like kind of high ticket group program offer for a different career stage. So, and then we've stuck. So the creating those high ticket offers has allowed us to create the low ticket offer, the $27 a month membership. But we couldn't have, and I tried to do it in reverse, like a low ticket thing. And no, like we needed the revenue and sustainability of the high ticket thing to give us the option of building a low ticket thing.
Yes. I love that you're saying this because I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking like, oh, I don't want to leave anybody behind and I want to help all these people and they won't be able to afford it if I raise my price. But it's like, you won't be able to stay in business, right? If you don't have a sustainable price that allows you to cover your business expenses, pay yourself a salary, have profit left over in the bank, like it just has to happen. And when you have that, if you then want to go back and have a lower ticket offer, it's like your give back, right? It's like your give back. And some of those people will elevate to the higher ticket, and then a lot of them won't, right? And that's okay because you have something that actually sustains your business, and you don't have to worry about it so much. So I love that you're saying that. And then you sort of expanded your product suite, right? So that, but what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that like you solidified one thing first. You got it growing and working. And then when that was solid, then you were able to solidify the next thing. So take us behind the scenes, because I know you've just like leveled up your business like crazy, in the last 2 years. So take us behind the scenes and introducing those offers, multiple offers. How did your team change? Number one, like how did your team change?
Yeah. So to be able to offer that, the offer that involves coaching, the high ticket group program, like I had to have other people. Like I couldn't deliver the whole thing myself, especially if I ever wanted to scale. So I did pretty much deliver the first cohort myself, which was a cohort of about 10. But I knew like, okay, going to the future, I can't be doing all of this. And if I want to have more than one cohort, more than 10 people at a time, like I need to have other humans who can replicate me. Right. And so we started really small in that summer of 2019 with hiring 2 coaches for 10 hours a week for each of them. And then slowly over time grew little by little their hours as they were trained up, so that I guess in June of 2020, I want to say that the Gina came on full time, and then January of 2021, Rocio came on full time. Now actually Rocio's back to part-time and we have a new coach. So we have 3, but we basically have 80 hours a week of coaches, like more or less, right? Like 2 full-time position equivalents. So that had to change. And that because there's no way that I could deliver the programs and grow the business, like deliver all the aspects of the programs and grow the business. So I needed to like have delivery. I already had, kind of behind, back end team help. So I had, in 2019 in the fall, the person who had been like my original OBM changed her business to podcast production. And so we just kept her on as the podcast producer, and she's still our podcast producer today. And then we had LaToya come on as our OBM, and she started as an executive assistant and just like creeped up hours until she was also full-time. And yeah, like that. So it was a build out, right? But it happened slowly over time, and cautiously over time.
But how did you get over that? Because this is another big hurdle for us women, like the idea of like investing, like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for these people now. I have to pay them. They have kids. They're counting on this money. Like, and how did you kind of manage your mind around taking on that commitment?
Well, I think a lot of it is like asking myself, and this is like a question that I am continually asking myself, which is like, how do I want this business to feel? What do I want it to do for me? And to another extent, this year, I've really been thinking about like, what's the end game here? Like, what happens like when I'm ready to retire? You know, what happens to the business? Is it a business that you can sell? Is it a business that you could hire a CEO, that I could exit? Like what is that end game? There's a business that just like closes shop, you know, when I retire. Um, and, and so like, I really want you know, you mentioned some of the lifestyle stuff earlier. Like, I don't want to work 50 or 60 hours a week. Like as a professor, like that was the expectation. And I rejected it then and I reject it now. Like I will not work that many hours. And also I want to actually work less than 40 hours a week. Like I actually just want to work from like 8 to 2 every day, and then occasionally be able to take whole days off when I need it. And so to do that, like you have to have people around you. Well, you either have to have people around you, right? Or you have to build offers that don't need live delivery. So that, you know, definitely you have choices. But as we could see kind of like the revenue injection and also the kind of it's really easy to see you changing and affecting your clients in that high ticket group container differently than in like a course that somebody buys and then you don't know if they finish it and whatever. And you can do all kinds of things, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
So that is like really satisfying. And so it's like, okay, well, I don't want to just be a course business. You know, I want to have these high tickets. I want to have a value ladder. And so it's like, well, how am I going to ever do that? And also not work my butt off for hours and hours and hours, you know? And the only way is with team. And so there's that kind of part of the mindset. And then there's also the, you know, like I know that if we make a commitment to a certain team member, that we'll be able to up level our revenue to meet it. So that's the other part of it, is kind of just having that kind of trust in myself that I've done it before, that every time I've made an investment in something, we've been able to cover it. So, you know, just knowing it's not like every day I'm like 100% thinking those thoughts, but like most of the time when I have to make a decision, I'm like, okay, I know we can sustain this. So,
yeah. Now, are you setting, so from more of a practical standpoint, are you saying, okay, I want to go ahead and, you know, bank a month or 3 months of what I'm going to have to pay them before I actually hire this person? Or are you just kind of saying, based on our promotions calendar, what we're planning to do, I know that I'll be able to cover this
based on the
investment?
promotions calendar, like I haven't been very good. And that's something that I'm still kind of struggling with, excuse me, at banking, like having at different points we've been sitting on cash, but that's something that has really like influenced the way I've like changes I'm making in the business now, is to be more profitable and to watch team growth a little bit, because I realized very recently that I was like trying to have both a big team and a big profit margin. You're not really going to have both of those things. And you can decide, right? Like I'm going to have a big team for a while so that I can support revenue growth or so I can support growth, but you can't expect your business to give you both like a big profit margin and sustain a huge team, at least at the size business that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. At least not initially, right?
Right.
Because you have to get them to be profitable. You know, it takes a little bit of time. That might be 3 months or 6 months, or depending on the role, you know, to get them to a point where the investment in the person is producing additional revenue for the business. And so now the profit is starting to outseed what you're investing. But yeah, there's that short term, like, like, what happened to my margins?
Exactly. And it's scary. And we just like this year, we decided to take that first Amplify high ticket group program for early career women. we decided to take it from a year-long program that enrolls all the time to a 6-month program and that opens and closes. And part of that was because we were delivering that 1 year long thing, like a 1 year long high ticket group program. And then on top of it, we were stacking a 6-month group program. So we were delivering like 2 high ticket group programs all year. And it was too hard. It was like, either we're going to need to hire a lot more coaches. It was just like too busy. It's too hard. You're like promoting things all the time. I was like, no, we're going to go to this model where it's going to be 6 months of one high ticket and 6 months of the next. We've got the courses and the little membership going underneath there. And that's what it's going to be. So we stopped selling that program that enrolls all the time. And I'm like, clenched onto the table with fingernails, like, are we going to make it to the enrollment period? Because it's going to start in September and we're like, kind of officially opening enrollment on June 23rd. But like, we like pulled the rug out in order to refresh the program and do what we need to do. But it's been scary the last 6 months because we're like not that whole revenue stream. We just like basically shut it off. Now we're going to open it up again and see what happens. But that's the other thing is like, you have to balance or figure out like, that delivery piece versus the revenue piece and how everything fits together.
Yeah, I love that you're saying this. One of the things that stood out too, Cathy, about the fact that you have these different offers, which I think a lot of people don't get, like, I think they just want to launch a bunch of offers and they think they have to launch a bunch of offers in order to have revenue growth, right? Which isn't necessarily the case. Like you could double down on a few offers. But the thing that I really want people to get with what you're saying is what's also unique about what you're doing is these different offers are for the same person.
Right.
It's not a different person. They're just at a different phase of their journey. Mm-hmm. And the people make the mistake of having different offers for completely different people. And it really complicates their business. So I don't know, just anything else you want to add about that? Because I think that's an important lesson for people to be able to take away, that when you are having different offers, I mean, number one, you already said, like, listen, I got to get something growing first before I start doing the next thing. But the other thing is, it's all for the same customer. So say a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, so to be clear, like I tried the same customer, a bunch of different offers that weren't clearly distinguished from each other. And so that didn't work because people got confused about which offer was for them. So a lot of the work that we've been doing in the last year and a half I'll say, is, okay, we had created all the 4 offers. Like we have a $27 a month. We call it like a co-writing membership because it's like you get on the Zoom and you write together. And then we have the signature course. And then we have a high ticket for early career and a high ticket for mid-career. So somebody could come in and do the membership and then ascend to the course and then ascend into either one of the high tickets. And we have had people go all the way through, but the timeline's long. Like, so, because you're in early career for 5 or 6 years, and then you're in mid-career basically forever after that. So like if you did our Amplify program in year 2, it'd be a long time before then you would go to the other program, but we have it. Anyway, the point is that when what we've created is a value ladder. And what's important about the value ladder is that you have to figure out, is your value ladder like everybody's getting to the same destination? They're just getting there, somebody's using a rowboat and the other people are using a yacht and the other people are on like the Concorde and, like people are getting there.
Somebody's on a raft.
Right. Yeah. Or do you have a value ladder that like, I learned one thing and now I'm ready for the next, I've solved a problem. I solved this problem. Now I'm ready for the next step. Okay, I solved this problem. Now I'm ready for the next problem, and And that's what we were trying to create, but it wasn't clear. It wasn't clear to us. It wasn't clear to the customers. It wasn't clear in the marketing. And so it's been a lot of work to clarify how these programs ascend into each other. So that's part of the reason that we're refreshing. So we're refreshing content in the different programs to make them different enough that people understand, okay, well, once I've been in this $27 a month co-writing membership, I solved my time to write problem because I can get my butt in the chair. Now I need more pipeline strategy and career strategy. Okay, I do the signature course. Then it's like, great, but now I still have questions about how to kind of craft my career and really have the lifestyle in the career that I want. Then you would go into the high tickets. And then the second high ticket is really like about how you create your legacy. You know, like it's almost like an executive coaching program for academics. So, you know, it's the same client at different moments of her career, perhaps, but you also could kind of go straight through depending on where you were in your career, and you don't have to go straight through. And the other thing too, is that, you know, our signature course program is $2,000 and our high tickets are $7,000 and $8,000. And we wanted to be clear that if you took the signature course first, we deduct the cost of the signature course from your high ticket. So if you if you do that ascension, then we wanted to make it like a very clear choice. Like you can do the signature course and then sometime later do one of the high tickets, or you can go straight into the high ticket. We'll give you the signature course. But we didn't want to make people think like, oh, am I going to have to spend $9,000 on this? You know, basically we tried to make that ascension like more logical and simple and no brainer for people, because then if you took the $2,000 course, then their high ticket's $5,000. And it's like a much like more in reach. And we have about half and half come into the high tickets, like half people who have ascended and half people who just find us and come in from the outside.
That's great. Yeah. That's really great. I love that. So let's talk about, you know, this, like we talked about level up in terms of your team, but I mean, bringing on the team, having all of those people really allowed you to make a huge revenue jump. So you went from like 100K to over 650K in revenue. Like, what do you feel like if for someone else that's looking to make that kind of leap, and that happened for you, in like a 2-year period?
Yeah, in a 2-year. Yeah.
In a 2-year period. So what would you say to someone else that, you know, went for that big, like, I just want to be one of those women that's more than that's making 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get to 6 figures, you realize like, oh, this ain't enough.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. What was critical for you?
Well, I mean, the high tickets were critical. So like we went from, or we being me and a couple other people, not me and my whole team, right? Like I went from, in 2018, we did about 100K in revenue. Much of it went right back into the business because I was still working full-time, you know, that whole year. In 2019, we did 400K. So we 4x'd, but that was killing off all the confusing offers and adding the first high ticket. So that was like one, and we also raised the price of the signature course. So we just like straight up doubled the price on the signature course, you know? And so that was 2019. So that was like 400K. Then in 2020, we actually did about 700K in sales, but we had, one of the things that we sold was an in-person retreat that we had to cancel and refund everybody. Yeah. So we ended up doing, like, between all the different refunds we had to do, it was really like 650 in 2020. Yep. And that was adding another high ticket, right? Because because in 2020 is when we did the second high ticket. So like right before the pandemic, we enrolled for that. So this year we might just stay the same. You know, I hope like my goal for this year is actually 750.
Okay.
But because I'm figuring out what the team structure really needs to be. I'm figuring out what the program structure really needs. We're tweaking. And so like we're not anticipating huge growth this year. External in revenue, it's more like that internal growth of our team members and how the structure works, and we get our communications better and we do delivery better and like improving kind of internally. So, I mean, so in terms of revenue growth, part of it is as well that 100K to 400K is like leaving my job, like it was a part-time job versus me doing it full-time. So that also makes a big difference. And that was also a leap kind of moment, right? A moment where you just kind of are like, all right, I'm taking the rug out from under this and I have to do it. Right. So between that and the high tickets, I think is really what I'm also like, I really know my customer. Like I really know my ideal client. It's pretty much dialed in. In 2019, we added the podcast, and I just can't say how much the podcast affects people trusting you and enrolling in your high ticket thing. Like they feel like they know who you. I would get on sales calls with people, and they like talking to me like they've known me for years. And it's weird, right? But that's what a podcast does. Like, and being very consistent with that. So I think there's lots of things that came together to get there. And I think that we'll actually kind of hold steady this year.
Yeah, that's great. And the other thing, Cathy, so first of all, I just want to underscore what you're saying so nobody misses it. But like, I love that and I think a lot of people think about this, like you made improvements at every stage, right? So you went from, having a smaller offer, then you introduced a high ticket. Then when you're like, hey, I'm ready to go to the next level, you redid the curriculum, you up-leveled it, changed up the marketing positioning of the courses, and then went to the next one and like brought in coaches, got them trained up, increased the delivery, right? And I think a lot of people are spending time on the things that aren't going to move the meter. Like, I need a new website and I need to go do like a brand photo shoot, right? And like, those aren't the things. So part of what you increased was, the team and getting all those things in place. But it really sounds like you dialed in because the price went up because you had high ticket, but you also were able to increase the volume of the amount of what you were selling. And what do you feel was key there, increasing that volume, how being able to sell more? So it was like you not only raised the price, but you're selling more stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think, audience growth, like you have to have audience growth. So one of the things that, because we were so busy from January until now, like redoing redoing the curriculum on the high ticket, and we were doing just like a lot of internal stuff, we didn't do list growth. And so our last launch of the signature course was the same as the previous one. Fabulous. It was a 6-figure launch. Awesome. But I wanted it to do better, and it didn't do better, but it didn't do better because we didn't have we were busy and we didn't do list growth. So like, I do think that like that list growth and I think list growth is hard when you're starting out. And that we have a little bit of like a snowball rolling down the hill thing going on. So we have this Facebook group. So we have the podcast. The podcast is super consistent. We have like over 150,000 downloads. It's doing great. And we have this Facebook group, and we get leads from the Facebook group as well. And that gets organic, like because it's big, like our Facebook group has 15,000 people in it, like Facebook pushes it out and there's a lot of activity in it. So Facebook likes it. So and of course that could stop tomorrow, right? But we, without doing really anything, we get 20, 25 leads a day through the Facebook group, without ads. And so, and that was not what was happening when we founded the Facebook group, like it was a struggle to get people in there. But now it's almost a little bit like, you get to a certain size and you're easier to find just because your internet footprint is bigger.
Yeah, yeah, that gaining visibility. Listen, if you're the best kept secret in your market, then you can't, you definitely can't grow your business, right? So,
Yeah,
so let's
100%.
wrap, Cathy, with talking about the lifestyle pieces that
Mhm.
have happened, because I think people would think, okay, going from 100K to 700K business, you're literally living with your laptop, sleeping in bed with it. Like, what?
Yeah,
How do
no.
like you live in beautiful Puerto
Yep.
Rico, you're about to go to the gym, like,
Yeah.
talk to us about the lifestyle pieces and how you've uh done your best to be intentional. You're a mom of three, right? Like, how have you
Mhm.
been
Yep.
intentional about those other areas of your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was making 100K, like the year the business made 100K and I was still working full time, I was working a lot of hours. Like I would pay a babysitter to come on Saturdays and I would go to campus and work on my business or go someplace, that wasn't home so I could get away from the family and the kids and be able to spend time working on my business because at that point too the business was like, I can't get enough of you. I just want to be with you all the time.
Yeah.
Um so I was working 6 days a week instead of, something, but it was like an intentional choice at that moment. Cause I'm like, I really love doing this and I really want to, make it grow and everything. So that was like going from 6 days a week working all day, every day to now, like I really do kind of work 8 to 2,
Great.
and sometimes I take the whole day off. Um, and I'm not, so to me, like being able to have the team and the team is trained and the team, like we always can do better with communication, I think, and systems. But, um, like I take a week off and all my programs run and and launches now, like launches used to be frantic. Like I would be like actually emailing, like the launch emails wouldn't be loaded, they would be like I was writing them and sending them and writing them and sending them the same day. Now the launch emails are done, like I have a full-time person on staff who is like my mark, used to be our copywriter and now she's like our content manager, so she helps me come up with the podcast topics and make sure that we're leading towards the offers and all that stuff. She's kind of like in charge of story in a
Right.
way, which is nice. So I don't have to
Love
hold
that.
that in my brain. And, and so like that's all the launch stuff is done. Like 4 weeks before we open cart, everything is like locked and loaded. And we're just like, I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? But so like the stress levels at this revenue, at this revenue spot are lower, definitely. Like I actually don't feel very stressed out. But also different. Like because I am like there is that weightiness of like, okay, now I have to be a leader for my team. I have to make sure that we hit revenue goals because of my team. It's not just me who suffers if we don't hit revenue goals. So like there's that part of it, but in terms of like, you know, hours a day that I work, no, it's not, it's like nothing compared to what I was doing at 100K, struggling to get, to 100K. So it's a much lifestyle wise, it's, you're really doing the vision casting in the business. Like that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be in the weeds at this level. And so yeah, that's what I'm doing. Team building and vision stuff.
Yeah, I love it, Cathy. So let's just final wrap. Why do you think it's important for women to become breadwinning business owners?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important for that, like living out your powerful potential in the world. Um, I I mean, I know that if I hadn't started this business, like we would have foreclosed on our house. Like there was no way that even we're professors, like we're not like, we're in the top, especially in Puerto Rico, we're in like the top 5% of salary, but we had these big dreams for this farm that we're on and building our house and all these things. Um, and to make all those things happen, like we really needed this business, the being a breadwinning business owner is like your ticket to sustainable wealth. Like it's not, instead of making ends meet and like I was capped at in my job, which looks so stable on the outside, but it's not that stable. And it was capped. Like there was no way I could really increase my income for the next 20 years in
Oh
that
my
job. You know what I mean? Like, and this is like, what am I struggling with now? I'm trying to decide whether we want to be a $2 or $5 million business, or whether we want to hang out at a $1 million business. Like those are the kind of decisions that I'm making. And it's really a very powerful place to be.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. This has been amazing. I always enjoy our conversations. I would highly encourage everyone to literally go back and re-listen to this episode and just like take down notes of all the nuggets that Cathy shared. And, she's really talking about the key steps to really growing in a sustainable way. So thanks for sharing that with us, Cathy.
Thank you so much for having me.